So, welcome back once again, friends. As I said in the last lecture, now we are going to talk about the fiction of Indian diaspora. This course is named The Fiction of Indian Diaspora, which contains three key words: fiction, Indian, and diaspora. So, let us try and make sense of it. Friends, all of us know that this is one of the most fertile, creative grounds of modern times in world literature. And you will be feeling proud if you visit any world library and come across lot of works by Indian authors, and at least one Indian author featuring in all major awards, literary awards around the world. So, of late, we have seen that the Indians have made their mark in this field of writing, and so it is so important for us to talk about it because it adds value to our literary discussions and at the same time provides us enough reasons to feel that we have delivered uh, quality literary content to the rest of the world. So first of all, to make sense of fiction, you know the word has been derived from Latin word fictus, which means to form. And when we talk about it in literature, it is defined as literature in the form of prose which describes imaginary events and people. So ironically, most of the fictional writings are informed by real life experiences, although the characters and place names at times are fictitious or mostly fictitious. So it's a literature in the form of prose, and it describes imaginary events and people. uh, this particular branch of literature, I'm talking about uh, fiction, because there may be other genres of literature as well. Like there is diasporic poetry as well, which is very intense and passionate while expressing the sense of rootlessness and deracination and culture shock. But then we are basically concerned about the fictional writings that consist of stories, novels, novellas. Novellas are the smaller forms of novels, screenplays, and dramas based on made up and fabricated stories and characters. So, fiction contains certain symbolic and thematic features known as literary merits. In other words, fiction narrates a story which aims at something bigger than merely a story. So, as we know, the literary works have both connotative and denotative meanings, and there are layers of meaning when it comes to a literary work. So, the simple, uh, entertaining stories on the surface of it uh, might contain some deep messages and some important concerns related to humanity at large. E.M. Forster, in his book Aspects of the Novel, discusses seven universal aspects of the novel. So, any fictional work is supposed to have these elements: story, uh, characters, plot, fantasy, prophecy, pattern, and rhythm. So, in this particular course, we are going to talk about the fictions written by Indian diasporic writers, and so they are known as fictions of Indian diaspora. It is a literature of or on the Indian diaspora and is enriched primarily by four categories of contributors. First, the members of the Indian diaspora who are not writers by profession, but nonetheless, such is the power of their emotion and experience that it comes out uh, in some form or the other, maybe in the form of diary writing, or in the form of, you know, some essay or autobiography. So the first people who have contributed to this body of fiction are the members of Indian diaspora, uh, whose primary aim is not uh, to become a writer, but they cannot help out their feelings that call for writing. So they are not writers by profession, still they have contributed significantly to this body of writing. The second category is that of the diasporic Indian writers. So they are writers by profession, and they have the uncanny knack of, intricately weaving their stories around the complex, complicated experiences of the people of Indian origin, or the people of Indian diasporic community in a foreign country. The third category that has contributed to the fiction of Indian diaspora are the Indians who are not members of Indian diaspora, rather they are uh, people of Indian origin. And then the fourth category is that of the people who are non-Indians, but who are intrigued by the nuances of the Indian diaspora, and as a result, they have also written significantly about the diasporic experiences of Indian community abroad. So, due to time constraints, I'm not going to discuss the works by other categories, and my primary focus will be uh, on the works of diasporic Indian writers. And that too, I will not be talking about poem or autobiography or any other form. Rather, I'll discuss the fiction written by the Indian diasporic writers. So, you know, Nair observes that the beginning of diasporic writing is as old as diaspora itself. It is such a bold statement to make, because, historically, we have seen that people who have migrated have left so little behind them by way of writing or publishing. But it is believed that the humans always have some kind of feeling, some strong feeling, and that feeling finds some kind of outlet. And that is the reason why Nair concludes that the beginning of diasporic writing is as old as diaspora itself. The earliest extant work by a diasporic Indian writer, however, is the Travels of Deen Muhammad by Sheikh Deen Muhammad, who suffused the book with the first hand experiences of his travels to different places in India and abroad. And then all of us know about the Girmitias. You know, they are the indentured laborers who are taken from different parts of India to different parts of the world for plantation economy by the colonial masters. And they also prefer to write in English, and their descendants have left, lot by way of their writing, talking about their trials, tribulations, struggles, resilience, success stories, uh, you know, as indentured laborers in a hostile world, under hostile circumstances. So, they are the people who have contributed significantly to the colonial diasporic writing, we can say, or they have talked a lot about the experiences of Indian diaspora during colonial period. The other day, I talked about Abhimanyu Anand, the acclaimed Mauritius writer, and his Lal Pasina, which is to me a very significant text when it comes to talking about the experiences of the diasporic community in Mauritius, especially how the people were transported from India to Mauritius under very difficult circumstances, and many of them fell sick on the board, and many of them died because they did not get enough medical attention. And when they landed, they found that the country as such was very hostile, and they struggled to make it agriculture ready. But hats off to them that despite all difficulties and struggles, where they were subjected to unspeakable tyranny, um, and were forced to live in inhuman conditions. uh, they fought tooth and nail, and they made the land a paradise. And now, see, it's because of their efforts that these countries have become one of the popular destinations of the world, and the world has come to know about them. So these Girmitias, their experiences have been very, very powerful. One of the most prominent examples, and let me tell you that any talk of the fiction of Indian diaspora begins with its first and foremost practitioner, V.S. Naipaul. So, when we talk about the contributions made by Girmitias towards the fiction of Indian diaspora, the most prominent among them is V.S. Naipaul, the Indo Trinidadian uh, Nobel laureate. His works such as House for Mr. Biswas, In a Free State, A Bend in the River, The Enigma of Arrival, Half Life, they have all become very popular. And he is one of the most acclaimed writers of Indian diaspora, who has won Booker and the highest literary prize, Nobel Prize. Works of Indian diasporic writers are derived from a diasporic's own life experience or the experiences of people who cohabit his or her life world. So, we know that this body of writing is very closely informed by the real life experiences of diasporic people. And many of these texts may be having autobiographical or semi autobiographical elements in them as well. For example, when we talk about The Tiger's Daughter by Bharati Mukherjee, we find that the journey undertaken by Tara Banerjee, the chief protagonist, is almost parallel to the journey that Bharati Mukherjee herself undertook as an Indian student in US. So there are a lot of elements that may be said to be autobiographical in that novel. So this body of fiction, diasporic, Indian fiction, certainly has lot of autobiographical biographical um, elements in it, because it is informed by the experiences of the diasporic community abroad. As diasporics, uh, you know uh, either colonial or post colonial, um, the writers have faced discrimination and loss of self in their new homeland, and so they seek to retrieve both by the act of writing. So, writing for them is not a means of gaining popularity or recognition. This is also something that gives outlet to their troubled thoughts. So it acts as a kind of remedy to their troubled thoughts, or is very important to them, because they feel like, talking about their experiences uh, out loud to rest of their community and people at large. So awareness of home, for them, in the form of nostalgia and pain, has been a common feature in their writing. So we'll find that the fiction of Indian diaspora uh, has a very strong sense of nostalgia and sense of loss and rootlessness among the protagonists of these novels. And we find that character after character is, um, uh, hankering after a lost home in a lost country. And they always feel, despite their economic successes in the host country, they still feel that they are rootless, and they keep floating without sending down their roots in that particular place. So, this sense of perpetual rootlessness is something which governs this body of fiction. The expression of longing and nostalgia for the old homeland is a common motif in much of the literature of colonial diaspora. Uh, like, for example, we can look at the poems by Sudesh Mishra, a Fijian, famous Fijian poet of Indian origin. And I was lucky that Sudesh Mishra visited IIT Roorkee in 2005, and we spent some time together. And I could see his feelings for India. He was so happy coming to his own land, or land of his grandparents. Misra has in his poems used Hindi poetry's Bidesiya, the one who has become a foreigner tradition. This Bidesiya tradition, um, this is a poem permeated with lot of poignance and acute sense of loss of home, where the person who has migrated from his home uh, always longs to go back to his home. So there is a tradition, especially in Bhojpuri literature, this Bidesiya tradition is very prominent. Sudesh Mishra derives, his spirit from this Bidesiya tradition. And in this tradition, the beloved who has been left behind by the lover, who has, uh, through his travels, become a foreigner, pines for him. So we find that, there is this acute sense of, loneliness and longing to go back to one's home. So it becomes a metaphor for the diasporic people, for whom their beloved is their beloved country, which has been left behind, and they always long to go back and meet her. However, the longing for the homeland has not been cherished by all the writers. As I said, there are different pull and push factors, and there have always been individual choices as well. So there are some of the writers who, as part of their political plan as well, uh, never showed up their vulnerabilities. For instance, Bharati Mukherjee was very critical of people feeling homesick or nostalgic, and she even refused to answer questions during her interviews regarding her Indian past, and she always clutched that she is an American writer, very much in tradition of other American writers uh, who are of the similar mold, like Bernard Malmut and others. Why? Because, she did not want Americans to treat her as other, and she strongly, retorted back that, um, the people like her are always treated as sojourners, while the white people or the European people who have also migrated side by side are known as settlers. So she was fighting against this kind of discrimination, and she was also trying to seek a visible space in the American literary circle, and that was the reason why she never, you know, ever, showed her vulnerabilities. So we have writers who have been showing this strong sense of longing for their homeland, while the others have shown that they are no longer in a mood to go back, and they are seeking a visible space in the country of adoption. Um, for example, V.S. Naipaul has had a complicated relationship with his homeland, India. Why? Because, uh, when he came to India with lot of, dreams in his mind, and all the idyllic divine stories that he had heard about India, India, land of gods, India, a land out of this planet, so on and so forth, had put in him a keen desire to visit God's own country. But when he visited India, he came across modern India that had changed drastically, and it did not have any of the elements that his grandfather had talked about. And as such, it was love and hate in equal measures, and that was the reason, he developed a very complicated relationship with India, his homeland, or the homeland of his forefathers. And he very, vehemently criticized the Indian culture and Indian civilization in his famous trilogy, India, a Wounded Civilization, India, Million Mutinies Now, um, and India, an Area of Darkness. So, there are material and psychological circumstances leading to the relationship and the experience that a diasporic will have with its motherland. So overall, the works of Indian diaspora centers on discrimination, nostalgia, identity, and sense of belonging, as Goose observes. And when we talk about this body of writing, as I said, in the contemporary world literature, this is one of the most promising and flourishing, body of writing, and the writers of Indian diaspora are contributing in a big way to the literary oeuvre of the world. There are many prominent names um, who have made headlines across the globe. Uh, to mention some of them, as I said, any mention of Indian diaspora would not be complete without starting it with the doyen of it, that is V.S. Naipaul. So, V.S. Naipaul, Salman Rushdie, Rohinton Mistry, Bharati Mukherjee, Amitav Ghosh, Jhumpa Lahiri, Anita Desai, Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, Kiran Desai, Sona Singh Baldwin, Bikram Seth, Bikram Chandra, and many more. I have just quoted some of the prominent names here, but then this is the body of writing, as I said, which is ever expanding and ever contributing. So it is a very fertile creative ground for creative expression in the contemporary literary parlance, and it provides us with a very intriguing world of the life of Indian diasporic in different countries, and so this makes us richer in terms of our literary experiences and in terms of human experiences, providing for very important experience of life. Their works offer a keen sense of pathos by coping with not only geographical displacement but also socio-cultural sense of dislocation. So they are not only talking about the struggles of Indian population abroad, but they also turn out to be the songs of success, songs of resilience for the people at large, because the life is always full of hardships, and it calls for abundance of positivity, patience, perseverance, and hard work to succeed. So they turn out to be the metaphors of existence, sustenance, and survival as such. So Salman Rushdie is a very important writer of Indian diaspora. His famous works like Midnight Children, Same, Satanic Verses, The Moor's Last Sigh, The Ground Beneath Her Feet, and The Enchantress of Florence are very, very famous works of diaspora, and they uh, talk about the experiences of Indian diaspora abroad. Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, another very important writer, who's the mistress of spices and the sister of my heart, are also rich in Indian sensibility and culture. In her works, she explores the themes of rootlessness, alienation, disparity, tales of abuses and bravery of immigrant women, emotional isolation, non communication, etc. So, they are all very important writers. Um, when we talk about Bharati Mukherjee, while publishing the works like The Tiger's Daughter, Days and Nights in Calcutta, which is her non fiction book, Jasmine, which is her magnum opus, the most celebrated novel, Middleman, um, the awarded short story collection, many more, The Holder of the World, uh, you know, uh, Leave It to Me, Desirable Daughters. Um, almost all her works are very, very prominent when it comes to the fiction of Indian diaspora, and she emerges as one of the front leaders of the Indian diaspora. So we'll be talking about her fiction also in some detail in the later classes. Those She does not like to introduce herself as a hyphenated Indian American writer, yet all her works are infused with and steeped in Indian moralities, modalities, and culture. So, as I said earlier, uh, you know, um, for obvious reasons, Bharati Mukherjee was fighting for a visible space and recognition in US and Canada, and that's why she always treated herself as an American author rather than Indian American author. So for that reason, many of the Indians criticize her for her anti-India sentiment, but we need to understand that this was part of her political design. Otherwise, uh, the body of fiction that she has produced is incomplete without Indian characters, Indian sensibility, and Indian experiences. Similarly, the works of Jhumpa Lahiri, Anita Desai, Kiran Desai, Vikram Chand, Rohinton Mystery, N.G. Vasanji, uh, uh, then Vikram Seth and others discuss the experiences of Indians in a foreign land, their quest for identity, culture shock, displacement, and so on. So, if we look at the key themes in the diasporic fiction by Indian writers, we will find that they talk about identity and belonging, nostalgia and memory, home versus hostland conflict, generational and cultural gaps, race, gender, and hybridity issues, oscillation between the home and the homeland, as we find that most of the characters are caught between their love for their homeland and the promise of the host land. So this leaves them, under perpetual tension, and this also leaves them confused at times, making up a meta home which exists nowhere except in one's imagination. And as a result, these diasporic people build a house of their imagination, um, because they find it impossible to go back to their home which has been left behind, and are equally unable to send down their roots in the host country. So, despite owning fancy houses, despite earning big in foreign countries, these people are still not able to call those houses their homes, because home has a different connotation altogether, a different emotional value for them in their own imagination. So they end up making a meta home which exists nowhere but in their imagination. I quote Rushdie, uh, who says that it's very difficult for the diasporic people. It's a very painful realization and experience the kind of alienation they have to face. And I quote, one physical alienation from India almost inevitably means that we will not be capable of redeeming precisely the thing that was lost, that will, in short, create fictions, not actual cities or villages, but invisible ones, imaginary homelands, Indias of mind. So Rushdie says that it's almost impossible for us to go back to our country once we have crossed its threshold, and send down the roots once again the way we enjoyed them once. So we continue our association with our homeland, but not the real one, but the imaginary. So we talk about India, not the real India or the physical India that is left behind, but the India of our mind. Believe me, friends, there is a fixity of image in the mind of the diasporic people. When they leave their country, that is the point in time when they carry the image of their place and their country, and it is frozen. It never grows with time, it never changes. But the reality of the matter is, friends, in the meanwhile, like any other country, any other society, the country back home has also changed drastically. And that's why sometimes when they talk about their country, they're also considered regressive, in the sense they are talking about a time which has passed its prime in the country itself. So, friends, this is a very rich body of literature, very exciting as well. Uh, in the future classes, we'll take up writings by these prominent, Indian diasporic writers, and we'll try to look at the intricate world of diasporic experience projected by these writers. In the meanwhile, we will also look at the theoretical premises through which we can look at this rich body of fiction, and we will look at the critical lens through which we can really make sense of them. So we'll talk about theorizing diaspora, and we'll talk about all those prominent theories and uh, theorists who have provided us different dimensions and different tools to look at the fiction of Indian diaspora and make sense of it. So, as of now, these are the references which have helped me come up with this presentation. For further reading, you can go through them and can enrich your understanding. So, as of now, thank you very much. I look forward to meeting you once again in the next class. Thank you very much.